So I'm here with Tim Lee, CEO of Veredictum. Tim, can you tell us a little bit about Veredictum and what you're trying to do?
We're a decentralized anti-piracy and distribution platform for the film and video industry, so we're trying to stop film piracy.
Fantastic. So how and why?
Okay, well, let's look at the why first of all, I think.
Sure.
I wrote and directed and co-produced an award-winning independent film 3 years ago, and we got pirated. And as an independent filmmaker, if you can't actually get your money back, you can't make your next movie. And piracy, we're not a Hollywood studio, we're a small independent production house at that time, and that was our breakfast that people were eating. And it just made me think, you know what, we've got to do something about this, because piracy, not only film piracy, but social media theft is just happening everywhere. And so that's the why.
Social media theft?
Well, for example, if people download a video from YouTube, they'll often put it up onto Facebook as if it's their own. They'll strip out all the producer reference and content. And the idea is that they will actually get eyeballs into their Facebook group to sell product that comes out of the back end. So they basically steal other people's content. And that's happening all over the place. It's going onto Twitter, Instagram, onto websites. It's going everywhere. And also film piracy now is going live from inside cinemas. In India, they are actually Facebook living inside cinemas for Bollywood movies.
Yeah, I've seen these. So tell me what was going through your mind the moment that you decided that you have to do something about this?
What was going through my mind was this problem is just out of control. And for any creative people who are following their true passion, when financially it's hard enough at the best of times in the creative industry, when you see people stealing your own products, it's not only for me, it was for other people. We had 116 people. Yeah, we had 116 people involved in the project. And I know how hard we all worked to get the best work that we could out there. And so the problem is, if we don't do something about it, the cultural values of any country, anywhere, are just going to get degraded. And the quality of the content is just going to head towards the gutter. Because
unless you have sponsorships and anything else to help finance.
But even then, if you get sponsorship, they're going to need to get the mass audience. And so the problem is, if you view piracy as an occupational hazard, it just means you gravitate towards the mass market and towards poor quality content. Or it's going to be commercially acceptable, but it's not going to be interesting. It's not going to be independent. It's not going to be culturally valuable. So as a result, I think it's being driven by the cultural narrative of, if we don't do something about it, culture is going to be in danger of disappearing. Because stories, as you know, as a storyteller yourself, storytelling is about passing wisdom from generation to generation.
Yeah, what I've learned and how you can learn from what I've learned.
Absolutely. And you engage people through the emotionality of stories, and then you put your messages out, and you inform, and you educate. And if we don't do anything about it, it's just going to disappear.
Just one long commercial.
Yeah, that's it. It'll just be, I forget that movie with Jim Carrey, the one where he's inside the bubble and everything was sponsored.
Truman Show.
Yes, that's right. And it's going to become almost like that, and it's just, is that what we want? Really?
Well, that's a good question to ask.
Is that what you want?
That's not what I want, certainly.
Right, exactly. But I think anybody who's in the creative field, or anybody that appreciates independent film is not going to want that.
So that's a massive undertaking.
Yes, I know.
To stop piracy.
I know.
So
absolutely.
How did you decide to approach it?
Okay. Well, the way that we looked at it was we recognised that we can't boil an ocean. Although, it's a big ocean that we've got to boil. And it's funny because where I live in Sydney, in the complex I'm in, there's a big hot tub. And I remember often first thing in the morning, I'll sit in there and I just see these bubbles everywhere. And it just reminds me that we can't boil the ocean.
Yeah.
And so what we've looked at is, we've developed tech to enable videos to be digitally fingerprinted. Okay. And within those digital fingerprints, we can actually track those fingerprints. Okay. So the way that we're approaching this is to get the community that is affected by piracy, in other words, the creative community, getting those guys and girls together and embracing them and galvanizing them to help us solve the problem that affects them.
Okay.
Right?
So the idea, tag it and then it will help.
Well, no. It's much more subtle than that. You may have heard of SETI. I don't know. Have you heard of SETI? SETI, S-E-T-I, is the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Okay.
It's based out of Berkeley University. Okay. And what they do is they send out a big beam of data out into the space, searching for intelligent life.
Okay.
Now, the amount of data they get back is volumes and volumes of data, which they can't process. So what they've got, and this program's been running for about 20 years, they've got about 3 million people around the world that actually run a small bit of software on their computers.
Okay.
All right? And Berkeley filters out the data to all these guys, and these guys process that data, trying to search for extraterrestrial life and send it back.
So rather than doing it all in-house, they've
That's right,
distributed
because
it among 3 million people.
It's distributed amongst 3 million people, with the idea that for them to do it centrally would be a nightmare. The costs would be astronomical. So it's the idea that we're doing SETI.
But so just people, it's like Wikipedia almost, people who are interested in contributing to this, who are participating in making it happen.
Absolutely. And so it's those that are affected by piracy. If they have actually got the ability to help us search for pirated content, because we digitally fingerprint videos, and it'll just be on a software, exactly like SETI, they'll be running a bit of software, all right, which means that they the software is sort of told where to search. So we're using surplus bandwidth and surplus computing power that they may have, running at night, for example. And the idea is that they will get rewarded with cryptocurrency if they actually locate the stolen content. So it's the idea that we're fine-tuning the algorithms right now, but it's the idea that, say, a film producer says, right, my film's been pirated, just go find it for me, so I can issue takedown notices, which is the one of the best ways that the early stages of enforcement action. So the idea is they would say to us, here's the actual nature of the file. It's been digitally fingerprinted, and then we put it out to the distributed network, and the software will actually run and go hunting for it. And the more power and the more bandwidth they devote, the more likely they are to find pirated content, and the more cryptocurrency. Yeah, the more cryptocurrency they'll earn. And it's the idea that the cryptocurrencies they'll be able to convert those into Bitcoin in the cryptocurrency exchanges. All right. So what it means is that they can convert it into Bitcoin, which has an actual definitive US dollar value, which then means that actually covers it'll more than cover their costs, or certainly the way that we're anticipating the economics will more than cover the cost of them searching.
Yeah.
But then the beautiful twist to this is...
There's an even more beautiful twist?
I know, there's an even more beautiful twist, because the piracy happens really, it's a very complex issue, but it happens for two reasons. Either people can't get access to the content they want, when they want, how they want, on the device they want, at a price point that's fair, or there aren't enough deterrents. Enough deterrents. Okay, so this side is providing the deterrents. So imagine now that we've got, let's say, 3 million people connected to our decentralized structure who are all anti-piracy advocates. Okay? What we want to do to them is give them a second business model, which actually means that they can become white hat BitTorrenters for us.
Okay.
So that they will be the good guys. So content will be provided by content producers, and this will act as a distribution structure. All right. So that what it means is these producers don't have to actually have all the Amazons and the Netflix and a whole variety of very heavy infrastructure, with the idea that we want to create a marketplace between content producers and key influencers, who will be a lot of the people that we actually have, so that they can get, say, if there's a boxing match, for example, they can communicate with key influencers in the boxing fraternity, and they can communicate direct, and the platform acts as the distribution mechanism. So the idea is that from a content producer's point of view, all right, if they've actually got an influencer that can corral, say, 20,000 people who are all big boxing fans, for example, the content producer can say, here's a wholesale channel that I can actually distribute my content to an influencer who's driving the marketing for me, no cost to me. They can drive the marketing for me, so it's performance related, they'll take a commission, and then the distribution platform takes a small cut.
So it's increasing accessibility.
Increasing accessibility and improving deterrence. By doing that, we'll solve piracy. It won't happen a week on Tuesday. Right? and it's going to take a bit of time.
You got to get a ball rolling at some point.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it's, I was really really motivated by a book by Malcolm Gladwell called The Tipping Point. Mm-hmm. Have you read it?
I have skimmed it.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
All right. Okay, no, that's fine, that's fine. Because in there he talks about the broken window theory. Mm-hmm. All right? And there's a sociological theory relating to poor quality neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. All right? Poor quality neighborhoods become self-fulfilling. Because it's a poor quality neighborhood, nobody looks after it, or generally nobody looks after it, so it remains a poor quality neighborhood. And so if you have broken windows, you're going to get more broken windows. Mm-hmm. Okay? So the idea is that he links this into the tipping point of the New York subways in the mid-90s, where there was graffiti all over the subways, it was dirty, it was grotty, muggings happened all the time, people skipping fares. And the tipping point came where there was a white guy that unfortunately shot dead 4 black muggers and ran off and whatever. That was the tipping point, and they said, let's sort this out. So what they did was, on the particular lines, whenever the train got to the terminal points, they would clean all the graffiti. They'd clean up the actual train. And then when it got to the next point, they'd clean up all the graffiti. They'd clean all the urine, whatever it might be. And they continue to do this.
Until they reached everything.
Well, until the people who were actually spray painting thought, oh, it's not doing any good. So they moved elsewhere. And then from a deterrent point of view, the police weren't charging people for missing a $2 fine because it took them 8 hours to process the paperwork. So what they did was they brought the police trucks to the stations. So all of a sudden, you've got improved lines and you've got improved deterrence. Mm-hmm. And that is just what the film industry is about. If you improve distribution and you improve the deterrence, right, then you're gradually closing up those broken windows. And that's why our cryptocurrency coin is called Ventana, which is the Spanish for window.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so that brings it all around. Yeah, it's creative, you see.
So here's my question. Piracy is really an interesting thing to grapple because it's one of those things that has developed in this new age of global citizenship and crossing borders. So how do you mitigate legalities across borders? Or is that a challenge that you've...
Well, I mean, we are looking towards locating the actual files and doing an automated issuance of a takedown notice, which obviously the producer has to instigate. We can't do it, we don't own the content. So, I mean, from a legal perspective, we put very much the onus back onto the producer. We'll find the content, right? And then how they actually implement it will be down to their legal teams and that type of area.
So you don't get involved in that?
We don't, not yet. Well, I mean, we haven't been asked to as yet, but because we can't boil the ocean. So we're going to develop the infrastructure so that it enables the core activity to happen. And then with the distribution side, I mean, distribution agreements that are currently in place will play a part in making some elements difficult. But, for example, I'm a big fan of Silicon Valley, the HBO show.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I love that show. And in Australia, which is where I'm from, we couldn't actually access the show. And I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to pirate it, even though I know 5 sites where I can get it straight away. And I said, I'm not going to pirate it. But I'm frustrated as hell. But I would pay $3, $4, $5 to watch it.
Okay.
So somebody gave me the opportunity to actually say, I'm interested in this show, and you corral maybe 5,000 people together who are in startups or whatever, who all love this type of stuff. HBO could get a wholesale channel. That just means that they just ship it out, bang, done, dusted. Click a button, pay now, done. Easy. Make it easy for people.
Yeah, I love when you a TV show is available for free for 1 week on the channel of the online channel of their TV channel, but it's unavailable in your network.
That's it. And I mean, and the reality is, either people pirate or they buy a VPN, a virtual private network, and access the site that way. So, I mean, I'm really torn because I really want to watch that program, but I'm doing the right thing. I've got to play it straight back.
Well, it's an interesting transition on a global scale. I mean, you're talking about international piracy. You're talking about Bitcoin, which is arguably the only global currency. So it's kind of a whole shift in the way we behave geographically.
Completely. I mean, it's going to be the whole of the blockchain and the cryptocurrency space is just it's a paradigm shift, and it's incredible as a technology and as a paradigm. It's incredible.
So how do you see it progressing in the future? What changes would you like to see?
What changes would I like to see, or what do I see is going to happen?
Both.
Okay, in film or outside everywhere?
Let's say outside everywhere.
Okay, all right. I think for me, and this is the very satisfying part about this tech should always be used for good. That's what I think primarily.
It's developed for us by us.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, for example, in the developing world, that's where this technology is going to come into its own.
The developing world skips generations of technology as well.
Well, it does, because if you look at, for example, in Kenya, they've got a mobile payment platform called M-Pesa, which
I lived there when it came out.
Oh, right, okay, right. So with M-Pesa, it's a text-based payment platform, right?
Yeah, and it was way beyond what I could wrap my mind around at the time. I was like, people are banking with their phone, I don't get it.
But the powerful thing of that, if you think in a developing country, and I saw an interview by a woman who's part of the UN that was doing some volunteer work in some rural Africa, and she was saying that there's, and this is at a micro level, where maybe a mother has 3 kids at school and she has to pay for school fees. She has to take a day off work, go into the main central administrative centre, pay the money, and then come back. All because they don't have mobile phone, or don't have banking.
Yep.
So, if you have, at a micro level, the actual technology to enable people to actually make a payment via their phone, they have a day at work.
Yeah.
Right? And you multiply that and replicate that many times over. So if you also think that 20% of the world's population have no identity.
Yes.
Okay? So there's trafficking, there's a whole variety of stuff, really bad stuff that's going on. 67% of all people in the world have no formalized legal title to property. Okay? So just extend that further forward, because there are applications being developed with blockchain, which is the technology that underpins a lot of what we're doing. If you can give people identity and you can identify property they own, from a compliance point of view, a lender can lend money. They've got security and they know who you are. So all of a sudden, you've got the developing world together with, say, a mobile platform for payment. They can actually now get access to microloans and actually build themselves a future if that's what they want.
Yeah, it's a serious form of empowerment.
Right? Exactly. It's empowerment with a capital E. Because if you look at that across all the developing world, there's 2 billion people now are unbanked. It was 2.6 billion. 2 billion people. That's a heck of a lot of people that are not empowered. So you give them just some power, and anybody in the developing world, they will have the opportunity. If they want to do it, they've got the opportunity to build themselves a better life. It'll probably extend life. It'll make for a healthier developing world. It's just empowering beyond compare. And I really hope that area really develops, because that's something. My mother used to live and work in Botswana, and I used to go down there regularly and saw a number of the villages that I used to go to and visit, and it was beautiful. They were so welcoming to us, but they had nothing, And so, if there's something that the technology can pay back, and I mean, that's why I wrote the whole book on the subject of the blockchain, is very much to sort of give people a plain English version of what the blockchain is all about.
So, just to wrap up, looking back, what things do you want to see that will mean that you've succeeded?
If we reduce film piracy, our target is 80% within 10 years.
Okay.
That's a massive target. But it's the idea, the hardcore pirates are always going to be there. They'll just shift and change, and probably what we'll find, some of the smaller pirates might well come over and support the infrastructure because they can make legitimate money. Okay? It's the idea of the 80% who are soft-core piraters, giving them the option not to actually pirate, and actually just giving the producer a better go at, with their content to actually make money and produce better quality content. So cultural values will improve, producers get a better deal, consumers get a better deal, and cultural values are just enhanced, and storytellers can do what they love.
Thank you,
And
Tim.
that's what you were doing with these.
Thank you very much.
That's awesome. Thank you.